Peace, peace, peace. Peace to the gods. And welcome to another broadcast of In the Circle Ministries. Tonight's episode, we'll be talking about part two of Senator Louis T McFadden, whistleblower, or if he's crazy. Um, Welcome to our What's Up Wednesday show. This is our virtual YouTube ministry, and I'm your host, Rico Blakeney. And this is where we take things and put them up under microscopes, and we see things up under a singular eye, see things for what they are. Give me 1 second. Just one more second. Hope you guys are doing well. Hope you continuously been working on your self-mastery, which I know that you have. Knowing that you are the only thing that you can master inside of yourself to change the outward things of the world, and that takes going inside of yourself and discovering things inside of yourself, accepting some things and changing some things that need to be changed. So that's what I want you to continuously to focus on it with all your stuff and everything that we have going on here. I know we've talked about a bunch of different subjects, and we've been dealing in the civic sections of things here lately, but self-mastery is what it's all about. Mastering yourself, learning and growing within yourself, becoming a better you than you were on yesterday, being a more prosperous and a wealthy you as well, to allow your pockets to reflect your inward self. So scriptures in the Bible says that God wants you to prosper as well as your soul prospers. So as much as you grow within inside of yourself and grow in understanding the God that you are, and the God and the abilities that you have, and how to operate, and the authority that you have those parameters, then you operate honorable way, and you grow honorable way within yourself. And the thing that you learn, you learn those things without if you want to check. I hope everything is still well. I'm gonna have to check because it acts as if. Give me a second. You guys, give me a second. Okay, so hopefully everything is still well. Hopefully I'm still streaming. Hopefully I'm back. Hope everything is good. Just give me a second to catch up and see. I'm gonna check on another site. Okay, so yeah, so growing within yourself, mastering within yourself, being honorably within yourself, and dealing with things of that nature is what it's all about. So learning the God that you are, as I said before, and stuff like that, and being able to operate from that place and to handle yourself in those ways as well. I'm going to cut off a few things as well because it looks like the internet's acting funny tonight. And this is the last recording that we will have in the year, calendar year. So, thank you guys for being here with us. This makes year 3 for us. My 3rd year in December, I think the 12th or the 22nd, not sure, but that I've been on YouTube and spread my message and spread my information, my knowledge, and everything else. And I've had a lot of growth, and I want to thank you all for being a part of my growth as well, and participating in it by watching and liking and subscribing, reviewing, and taking your time out to see what I have to say. So thank you, and I'm eternally grateful for you. And for those that are coming and those that are here, I'm going to call it into existence now, that we'll catch up with it and catch up with me in the videos and the teachers and everything else, and the private members we have at the In the Circle Church and the In the Circle University. as well. Thank you all for being a part and being the best part of it. Thank you for being who you are, what you are, because it's something about you that resonates with me, and it allows us to be able to transfer and to exchange and leave off on a good level, or leave off better than we were when we first come in contact with each other. So thank you for that. And celebration, like I said, 3 years of this. A lot of the information we talk about in the civics information, been learning it and studying it since 2018. Just, I guess you say publicly, from examining and putting things to test and experiencing certain things to find out what works, what don't work, what's bullshit and what's not. So, with all that being said, don't want to hold you long. Um, like I said, thank you for being here. As I was saying before, you're the best part of it, and we're not gonna hold you long. I'm gonna start screen sharing here in a second, and I know I said in the other videos, I think it was Sunday or Saturday, that I was talking about coming on and start doing more talking about this Mr. McFadden. I'm gonna give you a preview into the ebook I was telling you about, and I think it's here. So yeah, so I'm gonna share this right here with you before I go further into the night's lesson and get back into Mr. McFadden, because it may take us an hour or not so with that. So anyway, hope you studied on that, looked and search and research, and to see that I have uh, or see the information and check the information out for yourself, and maybe you be open for discussion when you come back and check out the videos. And maybe you've read it yourself, you see things, and you have views and opinions, thoughts, and understandings as well. So feel free to like, share, and comment inside of here too, in the comment section. And as I said before, everything here is for spiritual, entertainment, and educational purposes. If anything that you feel like is legal advice, it's something you have to take up with a lawyer, someone that does it legally. Um, but that's not what I'm giving here. I'm just giving out information. Okay. So this is the book that we have, Myth and Lies About the Straw Man. And for a limited time, I was giving it away for free. But if this is something that sparks your interest and you like it and you like to read it and know more about it, you have where commenting on this video here once you see it. Um, from this date going forward into 2026. Whenever you catch this video, you contact me through here. Leave me a comment, tell me you like the book, and at inthecirkle, inthecirkle @gmail.com. Leave me an email and a name and say you left a comment, you watched the video, and you like to see what it would take to get a copy of this book. Okay, so it's only $20. All right, Myth and Lies About the Straw Man, and Myth and Lies About the Straw Man, author in the Circle Ministries, and this is the table of contents. I'm gonna try to swell it up if I could. Yeah, and we're not gonna read the whole thing, but I'll just show you. You see, it's only a short book, but there's a lot of information inside of these 26 pages. Chapter 1, what do people mean by the straw man and why the idea spread? What people mean by the straw man, how the idea spread and gained traction, why popular techniques are risky, and what to do instead, the historical and legal claims behind the story, what is true and what is not, what the 1933 reform actually did, what H.J. Res, and it should be 192, and similar texts actually say, legal identity records, and why the straw man idea fails. And you know, you pause the video and read the rest of it. But that right there is the book there, and that's the table of contents of the book. But we'll read through a little bit here real quick, and I'll give you a little bit of what will be inside the book. Chapter 1, what people mean by the straw man and why the idea spread. Purpose of this chapter is to lay out in clear terms what people are talking about when they use the phrase straw man, where the idea come from, and why it what gained traction online in the alternative legal communities. The phrase strawman is used in several ways in common language, in law and in debate. It often refers to a federally created entity, 14th Amendment citizen, created by the federal government. And by being the creator of the entity, it places the citizen in their federal jurisdiction automatically, with the real living person, citizen, surety, or responsible party of the federally created entity, strawman. In the context we are addressing in this book, the phrase refers to a claim that the government creates a separate legal fiction, a federal citizen, for each citizen of a state based on the citizen's birth record, a birth certificate, and a social security number, making every citizen a state citizen and federal citizen almost at the same time. According to this claim, by taking the citizen of the state's birth information after they have applied for a birth certificate, which is needed in order for the citizen to request for a social security number, with the information that was given voluntarily by the citizen now becomes the identity of the straw man, which is then used by governments and financial systems to create secret trust accounts alleged holding large sums of money tied to the straw man and to the individual identity. Proponents say that the living person is merely a beneficiary or victim of this arrangement, and that with certain maneuvers they can take control over the straw man and gain access to that money. The story has a lot of surface appeal. It speaks to a common frustration, feeling powerless in the face of complicated bureaucracy. What's up, baby? You good? Y'all come on in. In face of complicated bureaucracy, anger toward large institutions, and the wishful thought that a hidden resource can instantly solve financial stress. The narrative also offers a kind of empowerment. If there is a legal trick or a special filing that restores control over what is supposedly yours, people will want to find it. But attractiveness does not make a theory true. The strawman concept combines fragments of real legal and administrative facts with misunderstandings and leaps of logic. For example, it draws on the existence of legal personalities such as corporation and trust and the simple idea that an official record can represent a person in an administrative system. It picks up certain historical laws and responses, repurposes them in a way the laws never supported. Online promoters often add dramatic examples and selective citations that on first glance seem persuasive. To understand how the idea spread, look at the environment in which it grew. The internet, social media, forums, and video platforms created echo chambers where compelling stories get repeated and reinforced. People share anecdotes about re-encounters with courts, banks, or tax collectors and interpret those experiences through the lens of the strawman story. As the ideal circulates, it gets simpler into step-by-step claims. Register this document, sign your name this way, file this form, and watch the system recognize you as the owner of the secret account or the secured party. And also, just know that this right here book that I read here was it's written, and I think it's good for those that's been in it for a while and understand it and have been into the information, have heard a bunch of the misconceptions and heard some truths and found out some information that are actually true. And it's good for a beginner, so as you can understand what you're getting into. So whenever you see all these different type of processes people have added on to the simple building blocks, they took the simple principles and added their own Lego blocks, and it blowed it up out of proportion. And things outside of the original principles sometimes don't work, and some of the original principles are not, and should have not ever been original principles. But anyway, enough about that. We're gonna finish reading this real quick, and then we'll get to tonight. I just wanted to do this because I've been talking about it and said that I would too as well. So also let me know what you think about it in the comment section as well. Another factor, it is distrust of institutions. Times of economic stress, political polarization, and confusing legal processes driving people to alternative solutions. When formal institutions seem distant and hostile, promises of simple shortcuts are tempting. Some promoters exploit that distrust, offering a sense of control along with paid services that claim to transfer wealth from the straw man to the living person. It is also important to name the origin stories often cited by supporters. A frequent anchor is the set of events around 1933 and the certain congressional documents like H.J. Resolution 192 that change aspects of the monetary system. People who promote the strawman theory assert that these events allowed governments to convert citizen records to financial instruments. They claim that because of this, hidden treasury accounts exist and are accessible if one merely knows the right technique. Those claims are worth examining carefully, which we will do in the next chapter, because taking legal language out of context in a common way to manufacture authority. Finally, the strawman narrative is resilient because it often does not represent itself as a single rich claim. It behaves like a modular belief system. People borrow pieces from different sources: statutory texts, historical events, obscure case law, conspiracy thinking, spiritually interpretation, even possible uh, possible legal jargon. The mod, uh, modulator makes it hard to refute with a single argument. Dismissing one claim does not necessarily change someone's broader belief. This is why addressing the issue requires both fact-based explanation and respectful engagement with why people feel drawn to the ideal. In this chapter, I have tried to describe the strawman concept and why it appeals to so many. The goal is not to mark those who are curious. Instead, it is to set a foundation. If you are reading this because you've heard about secret accounts or easy ways to fix legal troubles, know two things. One, these stories need careful scrutiny. Two, there are legitimate ways to improve your legal and financial position without relying on unproven shortcuts. Later chapters will explain the historical claims, explain why certain popular techniques are risky or illegal, and offer practical, lawful alternatives you can pursue. What people mean by the straw man. The phrase straw man is used in different ways. It is a context covered here. It refers to the belief that a separate legal or financial identity is created with a birth certificate and social security number, then used by government or financial system as a tradable access. This section clarifies the usage and why it sounds persuasive. Definition and common versions of the story. Okay, I think this right here will be all I'll read. And it'll look better than this if whenever you do get it. This right here is just my rough draft version of it. Anyway, definition and common versions of the story. Supporters describe the straw man as a trust created from a birth certificate and social security number. Variation claims each straw man has a secret treasury account held in the trust John Doe's straw man identity, name, and that the living person with the same name with just different styling is merely a beneficiary, but with certain filings and declaration will collapse the trust and release large sums to the living person beneficiary. This these versions differ in detail but share the same underlying assertion. An administrative record has been converted into a tradable financial instrument. The narrative borrows language and metaphors from corporate law, trust law, and banking terms like entity, trustee, account, and securitization, and reproposed to sound technical. This mixing of concepts produces a plausible sounding framework that on closer inspection lacks legal support. Because the story is modular, proponents can swap in different procedures or documents while keeping the core claim alive, which helps the idea spread despite being unfounded. Where the idea borrows from real legal concept. Elements of strawman are lifted from real legal concepts. Corporations and other legal persons have separate legal identities. Trust involves grantors, trustees, and beneficiaries. Official records function to identify and document rights and obligations. These accurate principles from a vocabulary that the strawman theory repurposes. But the crucial leap is turning an administrative identity into a secret financial instrument. A birth certificate is evidence of a birth and identity, not a negotiable security. A social security number is an identifier used for benefits and tax administration, not an account containing value. Securitization and financing involve bundling cash flow from assets and issuing trading instruments. This complex process is not triggered by ordinary vital records. Authorities create records to record legal facts that do not create hidden treasury accounts for private citizens. While the concept feels convincing to many, several physiological and social factors make the straw man story compelling. Legal and financial systems are complex, opaque, and filled with jargon, so an explanation that signifies those systems into a simple hidden uh, mechanical feels comforting. The promise of a secret access taps into desires for quick relief about debt or injustice, offering a narrative where control can be restored by following a small set of procedures. Additionally, the idea is spread through communities that provide social proof and emotional support. Testimonies shared, templates, and charismatic teachings reinforcing belief with technical sounding language and selective citations led apparent authority. Cognitive biases, confirmation bias, pattern seeking, and the appeal of conspiracy help sustain convince even after counter evidence appears. Recognizing these drives help explain why the myth persists and why carefully evidence-based alternatives are helped. And later on, he gets and talks in more detail and breaks down more and more. But you will have to get your copy of that from me. So, like I said, you have to watch the video and come back into it to see um, what was going on with it, um, and how you can obtain your copy for $20 for a donation of $20. Okay, so now let's get into tonight's thing. Yeah, and I'm really excited about the book. Inside of the book, it has a bunch of great information, and like I say, you can read it and have feelings about certain things if you've been taught and believed a certain way about how and what was going on and how the straw man and anything you've learned about secure party process and um, how you can take control over that account, zero it out, get into the TDA accounts. Look at this information without the eyes of that certain type of belief. Look at it through the lens that you did when you first looked at it and not had that emotional attachment to it. So as you can look at it logically and see what's going on with it as well. So like I was saying, let's go and get into tonight's let me see, I gotta be that is here. I think that's what that is. And not sure if I'm sharing the right thing. You have to give me a second to make sure that I'm actually sharing what I want to share. I have to let it catch up with me on. Yeah, so I'm here. Dun, 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 dun. And earlier when I was here, I had thought I was down here and saved where I was from last time, from the last video. Get back from where we were last week and continue reading. Uh, give me 1 second. Yeah, give me 1 second, guys, and I'm gonna go and find out where I was last week, just to catch up on, make sure I'm at the right place. $12,597, 12,597. Give me one more second, guys. I just want to make sure I get to the right place. Yeah, here we go. So this is where we left off at last week. So let me pick back up with Mr. McFadden and his conversation he had with the with the senators on the congressional record. It's the congressional record of the speech that he gave, a continuation of it. We stopped off here with a letter he was reading about a comment he had from Henry Cabot Lodge. Okay. In the 18 years which have passed since Senator Lodge wrote the letter of warning of all of his predictions have come true. The government is in the banking business as never before. Against its will, it has been made the banker of horse thieves. Excuse me, I'm gonna cut that off. My bad. Of horse thieves and card sharks, bootleggers, smugglers, uh, sp- uh, speculators, and swindlers in all parts of the world. Through the Federal Reserve Board and the Federal Reserve Banks, the riffraff of every country is operating in the public credit of the United States government. Meanwhile, and on account of it, we ourselves are in the midst of the greatest depression we have ever known. And if you notice too, something else I want to point out real quick. He says that every country is operating on the public credit of the United States government. So that's something to pay attention to and to think about. What did he mean by that? And as we go through later on in here, he'll tell you more and more. I just want to bring it, point it out to you, so whenever hopefully it'll be a reminder whenever you hear about it again, subconsciously, in a sense. Okay. Meanwhile, and on account of it, we ourselves are in the midst of the greatest depression we have ever known. Thus, the menace to our prosperity, so feared by Senator Lodge, has indeed struck home. From the Atlantic to the Pacific, our country has been ravaged and laid waste by the evil practices of the Federal Reserve Board and the Federal Reserve Banks, and the interests which control them. At no time in our history has the general welfare of the people of the United States been at a lower level, or the mind of the people so filled with despair. Recently, in one of our states, recently in one of our states, 6,000 dwelling houses and farms were brought under the hammer in a single day, according to the uh, Rev. Father Charles E. Coughlin, who was lately testified before a committee of this House. 71,000 houses and farms in Oakland County might have been sold and their Eastwild owners disposed. No, Erstwhile owners dispossessed. Similarly, occurrences have probably taken place in every country in the United States, in every county in the United States. The people who have thus been driven out are the wastage of the Federal Reserve Act. That's another thing too. It's, Federal Reserve Act. Read it and study it too. Very depth. It's gonna bring you to a bunch of information, a bunch of knowledge, and a bunch of words and things you're not familiar with on an everyday basis. So it's good to look them up and find out the not just the legal meaning, but what do they mean in financing, and what do they mean by it in that way. So learn those new words and read that Federal Reserve Act, the original one, and any other changes made to it. Most time, once you've read the original, it may take you a while, depending on what section or what part of it read, but I would say when you do read it, the revised versions, it'll be easy. You can track and see like the next year, or or you can Google it and see when the last time it was revised from that date and forward. However, and see what revisions were made. Okay, but that's another thing too to check out. The Federal Reserve Act is what gave the Federal Reserve banks and the Federal Reserve, all this Federal Reserve people he's talking shit to, the board and the Federal Reserve banks. This act gave them the right and the power to be here, to be created, and not to be created, but to operate here in the states for whatever purpose he's talking junk about. So check reading it out too as well. Okay. Uh, They are the victims of the dishonest and unscrupulous Federal Reserve Board and Federal Reserve banks. Their children are the new slaves of the auction block in the revival here of the institution of human slavery. In 1913, before the Senate Banking and Currency Committee, Mr. Alexander Lassen made the following statement. But the whole scheme of a Federal Reserve Bank with its commercial paper bias is an impractical, cumbersome machinery. It's simply a cover to find a way to secure the privileges of issuing money and to evade payment of as much tax upon circulation as possible. And when control and issue and maintain instead of reducing interest rates, it is a system that is irrigated with irrigated will prove to the advantage of the few and the determined of the people of the United States. It will mean continued shortage of actual money and further extension of credits. For when there is a lack of real money, people have to borrow credit to their cost. Okay, before I finish that, before I go on, he's basically telling you that like the dollar ain't backed by gold no more, and the only thing people can do is credit because there's no actual money of subject there's no actual money of substance. So when you don't have no gold or you don't have no silver, then you got to have collateral. What can you put up to borrow this money? What can you give me in order to get this line of credit? Okay, well, I have cattle, I have land, I have this. Outside of mortgages, that's a whole other subject. We'll get into another time. We talk about mortgages and how they are not what they seem to be on an everyday contract and what you would normally think. I've done other videos about it, but we'll talk more in detail about that. But for the sake of this, he's saying that that's a whole different way of creating money backed by the gold, and then you know how much money to actually put into circulation based off the amount of gold that you had. And so you can, even if you created more money, say if it was created in the beginning for every cent, 1 cent of for every dollar, you could get a dollar worth of gold, whatever that weight may be. Okay, and we'll say that the weight was fixed at a gram. We're just gonna say a gram just for the numbers. For every dollar, you can get a gram of gold. Okay, and then so it's backed by that. So every time they created $100, they had at least 100, or they would have had. I'm just throwing numbers out because I'm not being real accurate, but say they would have, if they had for in order for them to make $100, they wouldn't have to have $1,000 worth of gold. With $1,000 worth of gold, they're able to create $100 worth of paper money, and then that paper money you could trade it in for the gold, and you wouldn't be shortage in the economy, and that dollar would be strong and be worth something, even if the price of gold went up, and now that same dollar of gold, now you can turn it in and get 2 grams of gold because the value of gold went up, and so the value of the dollars went up. So the inflation stays, you know what I mean? It stays in a good, pretty well fixed place, and everybody that uses that system can capitalize from it. And doing it the other way, the only ones that are going to capitalize is the one that's able to extend the credit, not the one that needs the credit. And the credit system is there because they take the gold away. Later on, as we talk and teach about things about the HR 192 and the gold standard, and how that it wasn't repealed, it was put to another code, and I can't think of it right now. But we've moved away from that gold standard to now just having this credit system that he's talking shit about now, and others. Okay. So this is why what I was saying about him being a whistleblower or a crazy person. Most whistleblowers are deemed crazy whenever you're whistleblowing things into the public, because most of the time the whistleblowing is blowing the whistle in the ear of the people that others are blowing the smoke up the ass of. So it's like, wake up, wake up. They're blowing good Cuban cigar smoke up your ass. It's not what you think it is. Anyway, okay, so that's what what he's speaking about here in that whole segment about the whole scheme of the Federal Reserve Bank from Mr. Alexander Lasson. Okay, a few days before the Federal Reserve Act was passed, Senator Elihu Root denounced the Federal Reserve Bill as an outrage on our liberties and made the following predictions. Long before we wake up from our dreams of prosperity through an inflated currency, our gold, which alone could have kept us from uh, catastrophe, uh, uh, from catastrophe, will have vanished, and no rate of interest will tempt it to return. If if ever a prophecy came true, that one did. He was saying once the gone goal in our attempt to be free and how we can operate and be the financial wealthy nation for everyone, and everyone could make good money, and the gold standard will be the way for the private. It could remain as it was, because now by this time the public is already taking things from the private, and the way the system works is whatever the private have, they take it, call it illegal, ban it, and then they turn around, register it or reform it, register it, regulate it, and then they sell it up under their legal statutes, up under their limits and their guidelines, from alcohol to tobacco to drugs to uh, and different things like that. So they have it and say it is illegal, but only if it's not illegal if we prescribe it and you do it under these guidelines. But that's the way the system has always done certain things from the private. So now they're mimicking the same thing, and now they're taking the public way of dealing with it. They had a good thing by keeping it the way they were doing in the private and bringing it to the public and handling business that way. Now that they're changing up, so that's what that guy was saying about that. We're gonna lose that prosperity dream of us being a wealthy nation and able to handle our own business and be able to remain in our sovereign status and not need anyone for financial support. Because that's one of the biggest things of being sovereign, is being able to take care of yourself financially. And with a sovereign, then you're able to supply all the needs of those that are up under you, starting with yourself. And if you have those under you, wife, kids, nieces, nephews, family members, communities, or whatever, you got to be able to financially sustain those that are in need, that are not able to be self-sufficient. But anyway, let's continue. If ever a prophecy came true, that one did. It was impossible, however, for those luminous and instructed thinkers to control the course of events. On December 23rd, 1913, the Federal Reserve Bill became law, and that night Colonial House wrote to his hidden master in Wall Street as following: I want to say a word of appreciation to you for the silent but no doubt effective work you have done in the interest of currency legislation, and to congratulate you that the measures has finally been enacted into law. We all know that an entirely perfect bill satisfactory to everyone would have been an impossibility, and I feel quite certain fair men will admit that unless the president had stood as firm as he did, we should likely have had no uh, legislation at all. The bill is a good one in many respects. Anyhow, good enough to start with, to let experience teach us in what direction it needs perfection, which in due time we shall then get. In any event, you have personally good reason to feel gratified with what was in the office. word of the prison to the term as in all out himself and open him up again prison for already man was dead and sought to control the government of the organization by surrounding the executive